All right, I'm going to talk about a news story for the first time in many years. This is a breaking news story, and everybody's talking about it. It's the story of Rodney Hinton Jr., who has been arrested and charged with capital murder. Allegedly, he struck and hit a deputy in the same county where his son was shot the day before. And I'm going to read a couple of news stories, and we're going to have AI, Google Gemini AI, wrap up all the stories so far. Now, the man who's been arrested and charged is 38-year-old Rodney Hinton Jr. And this is from ABC News. Just reading a little bit about it. Just going to read a little bit about it. Authorities in Ohio say a man purposely struck and killed a sheriff's deputy the day after his teen son was fatally shot by a police officer. Rodney Hinton Jr. has been charged with aggravated murder in the death of sheriff deputy who was struck Friday while directing traffic near the University of Cincinnati, according to authorities. Cincinnati police said Hinton is the father of 18-year-old Ryan Hinton, who was shot and killed by an officer the day before the vehicular incident. I had a couple words there myself, but that was ABC News. I'm going to read from the CNN website right now. And I'm skipping around. I'm not reading the whole article of any of these. But according to CNN, questions also remain in the police shooting death of 18-year-old Ryan Hinton. The Cincinnati Police Department says he appeared to point a gun at an officer while fleeing Thursday, but the officer's body camera footage does not clearly capture the moment. So I read that paragraph, and that is something that's been consistent. Apparently, the father saw the footage of his son being shot the day before. He was distraught, and the family questioned if the son actually pointed a gun at the officers who shot him. Now, I didn't read that. That wasn't a quote that I just read there, but that's based off of the information. And like I said, we're going to have AI wrap all this up in a second here. And, there's also a bare-knuckle fighter, Rodney Hinton. This is Rodney Hinton, the BKFC fighter. Different guy. Completely different guy. And they're about 11 years apart in age. So the Rodney Hinton fighter, the professional fighter, is not the fighter involved in the Cincinnati, Ohio case. So this is the local news. They have a video here, but I'm not going to play the video. Don't want to get copywritten, of course. But I will read a little bit of it. According to local news, WLWT5, a local Cincinnati, Ohio website / station, the family of the 18-year-old shot by police during the chase is speaking out for the first time. The Cochran firm said they have been hired to represent the estate of 18-year-old Ryan Hinton. Hinton was shot by a Cincinnati officer during a chase in East Prince Hill Thursday. A little over a day later, Cincinnati police said Ryan's father, Rodney Hinton Jr., hit and killed a retired Hamilton County deputy as he was directing traffic near the University of Cincinnati's campus. So, one, if he's retired, why is he directing traffic? Maybe he's working as a crossing guard, I guess. But that is something that I've also read and has been confirmed a couple times, that the officer who shot Ryan Hinton is not the same officer that was struck and killed. And I think, it's going to be some conflict in stories here. But like I said, we're going to have AI sum this all up in a second. So that was the local news report. This is CBS. And I'm going to skip past some of this because I don't want to keep reading the same thing over and over again. And a lot of these things repeat everything. So this is on the CBS website, CBS News website.
Even pits and whole body deodorant.
Really? Really? So Hinton appeared, according to CBS News, Hinton appeared in court on Saturday with a wall of deputies standing at the back of the room. A prosecutor said evidence and witnesses will show that Hinton drove directly at the deputy in an attempt to kill him. A judge ordered that Hinton be held until another hearing on Tuesday. An attorney representing Hinton, this says Hilton. This says Hilton. And I've seen it several places. Some places it's Hilton, some places Hinton. An attorney representing Hilton said in court that he had no prior felonies and understand it's a serious charge. A message seeking comment was left with the family's attorney. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, and this is according to CBS News, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine said in a statement that he was sickened by what appears to be an intentional act of violence. Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Thietge, Theetge, said the Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy was directing traffic near the University of Cincinnati on graduation day when he was hit by a car that drove into the intersection. The deputy was outside of his car at the time of the crash, after which he was taken to UC Medical Center in critical condition, but died soon after, according to CBS affiliate WKRC in Cincinnati. Authorities did not identify the deputy, who retired from the department a few months ago, but was continuing to work off-duty assignments, said Hamilton County Sheriff Charmaine McGuffey. So that's enough that I read from that CBS website. I definitely want to get to the BBC. But that's more from CNN, and from a quick glance, it looks like the same thing. I don't know why this article popped up about a 2019 incident. And I do want to look at something. I saw something from the BBC. So this is from BBC News. And we're going to start lower down in the page. And we're just going to read a couple of paragraphs here. Rodney Hinton Jr., said to be 38 years old, from Ohio, is charged with aggravated murder and is being held without bond. The alleged attack came hours after he watched police footage of the fatal encounter with his son, lawyers say, from the Hinton family. Cincinnati's police chief said there's a connection between the two cases, although there has been no suggestion that the father knew the deputy who died. Ryan Hinton, the son, was killed after brandishing a gun at police during a stolen vehicle investigations, officials say. A gun was found at the scene. There's no indication that he fired it. The deputy, who has not been named, was directing traffic, blah, 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 blah. And now we're going to get Google AI to wrap all this up. Can you summarize all the facts that you know? Please summarize all the facts of the Rodney Hinton case and tell us anything that you know about the son, Ryan, and also the actual charge. I've seen in some articles that he's been charged with aggravated murder. I've seen in others he's been charged with capital murder. I would like for it to read it. So I'm going to copy and paste that. Open Gemini directly. And we're going to see what Gemini's response to this is. I typed all that in there. Processing, and here we go.
Based on the information available, here's a summary of the Rodney Hinton case. Facts of the Rodney Hinton case. On Friday, May 2nd, 2025, Rodney Hinton Jr., a 38-year-old man, allegedly intentionally struck and killed a Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy with his car. The deputy was directing traffic near the University of Cincinnati. According to prosecutors, Hinton's actions appeared to be calculated and premeditated, with evidence suggesting he drove directly at the deputy without attempting to avoid him. This incident occurred just a day after Hinton's 18-year-old son, Ryan Hinton, was shot and killed by a Cincinnati police officer on Thursday, May 1st, 2025. Ryan Hinton was killed during a chase after police responded to a call about a stolen car. Police stated that Ryan Hinton was armed with a semi-automatic pistol and pointed it at an officer. Body camera footage of the shooting was shown to Rodney Hinton and other family members just hours before the incident involving the deputy. Hinton was reportedly...
If you've seen any of my videos, you might be used to how I have to do this. Continue.
distraught after viewing the footage. Rodney Hinton Jr. has been charged with aggravated murder in the death of the deputy. He appeared in court on Saturday, May 3rd, 2025, and was denied bond. He is being held in Claremont County Jail for his own protection. His next hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. Information about Ryan Hinton. Ryan Hinton was Rodney Hinton Jr.'s 18-year-old son. He was shot and killed by a Cincinnati police officer on Thursday, May 1st, 2025. This occurred during a chase after officers responded to a report of a stolen vehicle. Police reported that Ryan Hinton was armed with a semi-automatic pistol with an extended magazine and pointed it at an officer. Body camera footage of the incident exists and was shown to his family. While police say the video shows him with a gun, it's unclear if he pointed it at the officer in the footage. Regarding the charge, Rodney Hinton Jr. has been charged with aggravated murder in the death of the Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy.
What do those charges mean in Ohio, and is Ohio a capital punishment state?
Let's break down what those charges mean in Ohio. And Ohio stands on capital punishment. Aggravated murder in Ohio. In Ohio, aggravated murder is the most serious form of homicide. It occurs when someone purposely causes the death of another person under specific aggravating circumstances. These circumstances include, but are not limited to, premeditation, prior calculation and design. The killing was planned beforehand. During the commission of certain felonies, the death occurred while the person was committing or attempting to commit crimes like kidnapping, rape, arson, robbery, or burglary. Victim is a child under 13 years old. Victim is a law enforcement officer engaged in their official duties. The offender is incarcerated or escaping detention. Given the alleged facts of the Rodney Hinton case, intentionally striking and killing a deputy, this would likely fall under the category of purposely killing a law enforcement officer engaged in their official duties, thus leading to the charge of aggravated murder. Penalties for aggravated murder in Ohio. The penalties for aggravated murder in Ohio are severe. Death penalty. If certain capital specifications are proven beyond a reasonable doubt during the sentencing phase of the trial, these are additional factors that make the crime eligible for the death penalty. Life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Life imprisonment with parole eligibility after serving a certain number of years, 20, 25, or 30 years, depending on the specific circumstances and capital specifications. A fine of up to $25,000. Capital punishment in Ohio. Yes, Ohio is a capital punishment state. The death penalty is a legal punishment for aggravated murder when specific capital specifications are met and proven in court. However, it's important to note a few key points regarding the death penalty in Ohio. Moratorium. While the death penalty is still the law, Ohio's Governor Mike DeWine has placed an unofficial moratorium on executions due to ongoing issues with the availability of lethal injection drugs and concerns about the fairness and accuracy of the process. The last execution in Ohio was in 2018. Lethal injection. Lethal injection is the only currently approved method of execution in Ohio. Jury decision. If the prosecution seeks the death penalty, the sentencing decision is made by a jury, and it must be unanimous for a death sentence to be imposed. If the jury cannot reach a unanimous decision, the sentence is life imprisonment. Appeals process. Cases involving the death penalty undergo extensive and lengthy appeals processes. In summary, Rodney Hinton Jr. is charged with aggravated murder in Ohio, which carries the potential for the death penalty if certain conditions are met. While Ohio is a capital punishment state, there is a current nieoficialny moratorium on executions.
Considering Trump's recent grandstanding and his overstepping of laws, can he supersede this and have his administration pick up the charges federally and pursue the death penalty?
It's important to understand the complexities of federal versus state jurisdiction in criminal cases. Here's a breakdown of the relevant legal principles. Federal versus state jurisdiction. State crimes. Most violent crimes, like murder, are prosecuted at the state level. State laws define these crimes, and state courts have jurisdiction. The Rodney Hinton case, involving the alleged killing of a sheriff's deputy, falls under the jurisdiction of Ohio state law. Federal crimes. Federal crimes are those that violate federal laws. These often involve crimes that cross state lines, crimes committed on federal property, crimes that involve federal agencies or officials, certain specific offenses defined by federal statutes. It's rare for a typical murder case to fall under federal jurisdiction unless there's a clear federal element. Presidential powers, executive power. The president has the power to, quote, take care that the laws be faithfully executed. This primarily involves enforcing federal laws. The president cannot unilaterally override state laws or take over state criminal prosecutions. Department of Justice. The U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, under the president's executive branch, prosecutes federal crimes. The DOJ could potentially become involved if there were a federal aspect to the case, but that would be determined by federal law, not by presidential decree. Application to the Rodney Hinton case. Based on the information available, the Rodney Hinton case is primarily a state matter. The alleged crime occurred within Ohio, and the victim was a county sheriff's deputy. It's highly unlikely that the president could legally supersede state jurisdiction and have the federal government take over the prosecution. It is also unlikely that any federal charges could be brought that would allow for the pursuing of the death penalty. While the president holds significant power, it is not absolute and is restricted by the Constitution and the separation of powers between the state and federal governments. In summary, the president cannot simply pick up state charges and pursue federal prosecution. The division of legal authority between the states and the federal government is a fundamental principle of the U.S. legal system. The death penalty is also something that is handled differently from state to state, and the federal government cannot force a state to use the death penalty.
I hear you, and I'm going to let you finish, but the Trump administration has already done a few things that is not constitutional legally, and Ohio is also the same state where Springfield, where they're eating the dogs and eating the cats, occurred. So there are political points to be scored there, and I definitely see some potential for the Trump administration to intervene.
You're raising a complex point about the potential for political intervention, even when it might strain legal boundaries. While I understand your perspective, it's crucial to distinguish between political rhetoric and actual legal possibilities. Here's a breakdown of why, despite potential political motivations, a federal takeover of the Rodney Hinton case would be exceptionally difficult. Federalism and state sovereignty. The U.S. legal system is built on the principle of federalism, which divides powers between the federal government and the states. States have primary jurisdiction over most criminal matters.
It's not as long as it seems, so again, I'm going to let her finish.
Within their borders. For the federal government to intervene, there would need to be a clear violation of federal law. Lack of federal nexus. The alleged crime, the killing of a county sheriff's deputy, appears to be a state offense. There's no readily apparent federal element that would give the federal government jurisdiction. Even with political motivation, the Department of Justice would need a legitimate legal basis to intervene. Political versus legal action. Political grandstanding and rhetoric can create the appearance of action, but they don't change the underlying legal realities. Any attempt to override state jurisdiction without a legal basis would likely face legal challenges and be seen as a large overreach of power. Ohio-specific events. While events such as the ones that happened in Springfield, Ohio, might create political talking points, those events do not grant the federal government jurisdiction over a murder that happened in a different county. In summary, while the Trump administration has been known to push legal boundaries, the legal obstacles to federal intervention in the Rodney Hinton case are significant. The principles of federalism and state sovereignty would make it extremely difficult for the federal government to take over the prosecution without a clear legal justification. It is important to remember that the legal system is designed to prevent the federal government from taking over state legal matters without just cause.
So, as usual, Google is right and I'm in wrong. Well, hopefully. Because the Trump administration has arrested judges. The Trump administration has rounded up people and sent them out the country. The Trump administration has a lot of people locked up in El Salvador for immigration violations. So I don't think the Trump administration will intervene. I think the chances of them threatening to intervene are definitely not zero. But that's all the information I can rustle up right now.